I was sharing you this story about a friend and colleague of mine who's had this experience in his yoga class with an instructor who made an assumption based upon a song that she was humming in the middle of an Ashtanga yoga class. I'm not quite sure about that. And she says, and he asks her, what song are you singing? And she says, oh, you wouldn't know, it's Before Your Time. And she's younger than him. And the theme, because that's what we always talk about. And I observe the common themes that are mirrored back to me through my interactions with people online and with my interactions with people in person. The theme that is so playing out, and it's been playing out so much this year, and now that we're in November, it's November 1st, and we're coming towards the end of this 2023 year, the theme that is really strong is observe your victim. Observe the victim within you. Are you giving energy to your victim? What are the words that you're speaking? What you doing? Kiss.
He wants attention.
I know you do want attention. You do. Come here, Pluto. No one will play with me.
Yeah.
The victim.
That's the victim right there.
No one will play with me. Fine, I'm going to sit here.
It's been 45 years.
No, you want me to come into your space. This is the cat thing. I want you to come into my space. I am not going to let you touch me. Instead, I'm going to go over to the window and I'm going to look out because you're not paying attention to me. Pluto, kiss him. Come here. Come here. Come here. Come on over here.
I kind of appreciate that he treats the wires so carefully. That's really nice of him.
He does, but no. See, he's trying to entice us to come out and go over. Like he's hiding behind things.
Yeah.
Come over here and play. So that theme is really playing out, and I am not one to indulge the victim. Never have been. My own inner victim. I used to be this way. Definitely softened up. Thank you for helping me with that, all three of you. All three of you have helped me with that a lot. Because when you're a mom and your kids need you, there is no room or time for you to be a victim. If you're going to be a healthy parent, you have to throw your victim out. You are serving. Being a healthy parent, you are serving, whether you're a mother or a father. You are serving because you are grooming a healthy adult when you have a child. And how I used to treat my victim was shut the fuck up, get the fuck up, go the fuck out, go do it, go get it, no time for this, impatient with you, no tolerance. It's a 0 tolerance policy. Not even a 3 strikes, you're out. That's it. I was very Aries with it. No patience with this. No, you're not going to. No whining. And I don't know if you'll recall, but when I used to have migraines, when you were growing up, I literally used to have a whole dialogue with myself. I used to be in pain. I'd sit on the floor and put my head up against the wall because I had pressure in the craniosacral bones. And I would literally just be like, why? Why is this happening? I hate this. Knock it off. And I'd slam my head against the wall. And, Nana would come over, or if I was married to your father, he'd be there. And I'm like, I'd have this whole inner dialogue with the victim who wanted attention, wanted it. And a lot of it goes back to when I was a child. Literally in the first 16 years of my life, I learned that I did not have to go to Papa's church if I had a headache. If I was sick, I didn't have to go to church. So at the age of 10, maybe it was 11, I'm not sure of the exact timeline on this, I used to fake a headache. And what I ended up doing was actually manifesting headaches on Sundays. How convenient.
That is very convenient.
It is, but I was indulging the victim. And then, of course, my subconscious is programmed to do that. And then it continues into my 20s. And they're very violent. The headaches are. A lot of nausea. They're very dramatic. It's all caused by mental, emotional. All of it is, because the mind controls the body. And I knew this. Even this is before I was a hypnotist. I knew this. And yet it's like, oh my gosh, I can't go to dance class. I learned not to indulge it then. I learned in my 20s, push through it, go to dance class anyway. And I would go to dance class and I'm like, my eyes are like completely being stabbed by inner pain. And I'm like showing up and I'm like this, but I'm still going through it anyway. People are going, are you okay? No, I have a migraine. Why are you here? Because I'm not going to indulge this migraine. And I literally go in the bathroom and throw up. I've always done that. I've always pushed through it. Now, when I was pregnant with each one of you, that exacerbated it. It made them all worse. There were hormone imbalances. My body had lots of toxicity because I hadn't detoxed enough. But something that one of my family members who just went through this whole headache thing that I'm just coming out of now, for the last couple of days, we talked on the phone about when we are in a toxic relationship. That's when the migraines come. And then I was noting that once I divorced your father, my headaches lessened dramatically. And when I was trying to get back into a relationship, they'd start to come back in again. I didn't notice that at the time, but reflecting now, I see the pattern. The last committed relationship that I had that was on again, off again, so tumultuous that finally I ended almost 3 years ago. I had headaches with that. And ever since I ended that, and I shared this with her on the phone, when I ended that, and I said to her, because she's always going through all of this every step of the way with me, I said, what happened? She goes, your headaches stopped. I said, because they were emotional, mental. And I said, and it isn't about him. He's mirroring back to me what I created in my childhood that had to do with my father, the victim. So I was helping her with this. So notice, and she's like, you're right. When I was married, I had way more headaches. And now that you've been in this relationship and it's been toxic, he gaslights, he's trying to control you, but it's not personal. He's not being personal with you. He's not emotionally connected with you. So what do you, and I said, I've noticed that you have all these headaches, but you didn't have before you went into the relationship with him a couple years ago now. And she was like, wow, you're right. Yep. And so it helps her to reflect on that. It's essential that we reflect on the victim patterns because you don't have to go and get therapy.
Actually, so I have a question.
Yeah.
Because I actually think that once you recognize the victim pattern, reflecting becomes pretty easy because it's recognition that is really the key. So how does somebody go from being in a victim state to recognizing the victim state from a third person perspective?
First of all, you have to stop and breathe. You always have to do that. The breath will get you in the body. The breath will help you to become very clear and conscious. Stop, and you have to think back to all of the patterns in your life. You can be 10 and do this. I mean, I know 10-year-olds who are smarter than some adults. You have to reflect on the past, your behavior, and you have to see when you interact with people, when you've interacted with people, when you've been in what kind of relationships, when you're relating with your siblings, if you have them, when you're relating with your parents, if you have them, and other family members, teachers, if you're a student. You have to reflect on all of your relationships and notice the similarities. Now, sometimes they'll be obvious. Like I have this obvious pattern of attracting men with the same name in certain clumps. And I like to do this. I feel this is a really healthy practice to do. I have looked at all of the men that I have dated, now we're not talking about lovers, we're not talking about committed relationships. I have done a lot of dating in my life. Just meet a man, learn about him. Who are you? Go have some tea, meet him in a coffee house, go for a walk, go for a hike, go get a juice. And I will notice, like, I went through this, and I went through this with my family member years ago. I lined up how many men with the name Eric that I had dated that were significant to me. 3, but 5 I dated and 3 were significant. How many Michaels, because that's my brother's name. How many Michaels were interested in me that I wasn't interested in, but they pursued me? There's a lot. How many Davids? Papa's name. Well, then we have variations. There was a David in Peru. There was also a Miguel.
Yeah.
How many Jameses? How many Matthews or Matts? And the big name in my life would be the Joe, Joey, and Joseph. And then I will take even further. I will look at the numerological lineup of all their names. I'll look at the numerology and I'll look at the singular number and the compound number to see, because they're teaching you about yourself. So it's like, I'm really attracted to men who have a J name. I'm also clearly really attracted to this whole Scottish Gaelic thing. There's a Greg and a Craig. It's like, okay, I like to see the patterns, because when you observe the patterns, and you can do this on a piece of paper, you can write out and you can see. And if you are interested in going to an even deeper level, you can find out what the birth dates are, and you can see a pattern astrologically if you're interested in the astrology piece.
This is also, I think this is something where I think therapy could really help, because I've recognized in my time being out and about that not everyone is so inclined or willing to reflect in this deep sort of way.
I know, but they need to.
They need to, but it also may not necessarily be in their life path. Perhaps what they're here to learn is how to learn from others in this way. And so the great thing a therapist can do for you is they can be that mirror. They can be your journal to sit down and note all of the patterns, all of the points and things that you aren't willing to see. And they can show that to you. And of course, it is going to be on you to recognize that. At the end of the day, it's all on us individually to see our own patterns. But sometimes I think it's more helpful for people to learn with a external mirror rather than the internal one. And then they can use the internal one better once they've seen. Some people just need that extra little guidance. For me, I feel like it's gone both ways. There have been times where I've wanted the external mirror, but my inner compass has always been pretty on. And so usually when I ask for help from others, it's to confirm something that I already know, but I'm doubting in myself. And this has like been the role of, for example, when I went to therapy in my life, or when I have talked to a friend and asked for their opinion, or not even their opinion, just talk to them and just seeing what it is that they brought out. I've looked for sort of this, I'm like, okay, I'm not sure if what I'm feeling is 100% there. Let me see if there's some confirmation from universe, basically. Am I on the right track or am I not? And I realize that I have a very strong inner compass and a very, very strong sense of myself, as do you. And this is something that can definitely be developed in people, but not everyone is innately this way. And I feel that one of the great things about our experience here on Earth is that we can be those mirrors to each other, that we can sit there. I've been that for a billion people. I have been the therapist friend. I've been the person to sit there and just jot down notes, not even physically, just you put a little pin in whatever the pattern is that they're experiencing, and you just reflect that to them. Hey, notice that. Pay attention to that. And, the people who want that are like, you're right. Like you're totally right. Like I need to recognize that, and I think that's just the great thing about being multiple of ourselves rather than just being one. If we're one, if we're operating from oneness, there's not really a need for others.
We all need a witness. When I was working with Tammy Lynn Kent, who is a physical therapist and the creator of Women's Holistic Pelvic Care, and she did TED Talks called The Vagina Whisperer. I had my very first holistic pelvic care session with her literally on December 20th of 2012, like the day before the big end of times was supposed to be. And when I was working with her, and I felt such relief, and this was at the end of the marriage with your father, I said to her, why can't I just do this on my own? And she said something very profound to me that I've always used, and I've always given her credit for. Thank you, Tammy. We all need a witness. This is a mirrored universe. We're in a holographic universe. And we need that mirror reflection in order to learn about ourselves. I know that once you have a foundation of working with a therapist in whatever degree they are, I've worked with a plethora of therapists. I started therapy when I was 17 with a biofeedback specialist who was also a psychologist for the migraines. And that's when he tested me for psychic abilities. And we usually actually used an instrument, a biofeedback machine for that, and came up with tangible, credible results. I had that foundation, and what that did was that led me into an inner journey of self-therapy and self-reflection. I have done both. I find now where I'm at, mid-50s, with a lifetime of so many different healing therapeutic modalities within me, I don't need the external that much. Also, from practicing daily yoga for your entire life, I have learned that the inner journey is something I can now do on my own, and I ask my guides, I ask ether, I ask spirit, the higher aspects of myself to help me. And I get, most of the time, I get credible, tangible, evidence-based guidance. But for those that are not doing this, which seem to be greater in number than those that are on the path that you and I are on, therapy, I feel, is essential with a credible therapist. Whether it's psychotherapy, whether it's somatic therapy, whether it's, I'm a body worker. I work with people and help them with I've helped some people who would never come to me for a QHHT or BQH session, and I have given them body work, and that has helped to release lifetimes, not just this life, but lifetimes, because past lives will come up, lifetimes of pain, and they're clearing. Whether it's an emotional therapy, whether it's some sort of alternative healing, whether it's psychedelics therapy, whether it's food nutrition therapy, whether it's a heavy metal detox therapy, whatever it is. I feel from my experience that it is essential that pretty much all humans need some sort of therapy at some point in their life. If you are looping a victim part of yourself and you keep running into a wall with it, it's time to go and talk with somebody else who has perspective that can see it. And in my family, as you know, Nana and Papa are therapists themselves and very credible and amazing, and have helped at this point probably multiple thousands of people. I practiced for the majority of my life up until probably 7 or 8 years ago, going to them. And I always realized I needed somebody that wasn't invested in me so emotionally to be able to see. That doesn't mean that family members can't help family members. Yes, we do. I help you, but you're going to get more help from somebody that is not related to you and that doesn't know you than I will. And you and I help each other. We see things about each other's lives that we bring up. I feel that it's really healthy for a family to be able to do that with each other. But you feel more open to be able to share with someone who is credible at being a therapist in whatever form it is, number one. And number two, somebody you don't know. Somebody that you know is confidential. That's going to help you with the victim. That's what people come to me for in all my sessions, no matter what they are. They used to come to my in-person yoga classes, and the victim would come up at the end, and they wanted help. They are, you said this, that spoke to me. I need help with this. I felt you were talking to me, even though you had a whole group and a whole workshop or a class. My Sunday Beyond Quantum Healing client, she's a powerhouse. She's amazing. She helps people. She's a motivational speaker. And yet her victim was holding her back. She does not play the victim in a poor me way. I never did either. My victim is not a poor me. The victim expresses itself in a multitude of ways. My victim is more like Superman with kryptonite. And there's the fight. There's like an internal war. She mirrored that. And I let her know. I said, we're reflecting each other. We're mirroring each other. I said, what you're telling me is the way that I used to be. And she's laughing and I helped her amazingly just by mirroring back to her the little things, the nuances that I heard when she was sharing her issues with me. And then, I shared with her one piece of something that just came up, telling me the story of when she was a teenager and the issues that she had. And she gave one little word there, and that popped out at me. And I said, let's talk about that. And she went, oh, okay. I said, that's a key. You used to do that. She said, no one's ever said that to me before. I said, but that's the key. It's tiny. And you can find that on your own. You found subtle keys within yourself just from meditating, from reflecting. Now you're journaling. Mm-hmm. You can do that, but it helps to have someone who is trained to show that back to you. But for those people who are very conscious and have a daily spiritual practice, in order to learn all of these little hidden aspects of your subconscious, your victim, automatic writing is amazing.
That is a really good tool. I find that one of the great journaling techniques, there's a bunch of them. I think just when you wake up, just writing, just thoughts even. Thoughts are very helpful too, because your thoughts will express those patterns in writing. And you can pinpoint them if you notice the same thought popping up upon waking up repeatedly. It's a really good way. There's a book that one of my friends gave to me called The Artist's Way. It's a really good book, and that's like first technique in that book of finding the path
That's
of flow.
Julia Cameron,
It
right?
is. Yeah.
That's a brilliant book.
Yeah.
I used to have that.
You did?
I did in the 90s when she first wrote
Yeah.
it. It was recommended to me by the counselor that your father and I went through premarital counseling with, Mary, in Santa Monica, California. And she said, you might like Julia Cameron in The Artist's Way. That book, and I ended up actually giving that book to somebody who really needed it that couldn't buy it. That's a powerful book. So what have you found from that book?
Well, just the writing process is a meditative technique, actually. Its entire purpose is to clear your mind of all those unnecessary clutter thoughts. And in doing that, it exposes you to the patterns of them because you see if there are repetitive thoughts, and you see everything is revealed, your dreams, your ideas, what you want, what you don't like, what you fear, all of those things, they all come out in that writing. And it's just, it opens you up to the process of flow, because when a thought comes in is when you write it down. And that's the only thing that like you need to do, is you just need to allow those thoughts to turn into writing. And so the moment that you allow that to happen is the moment when you see it exposed on the page. But for example, I find that for me, I've noticed that I will write intentionally. And the goal is not to like write intentionally. The goal is to write unintentionally, because that's when that's like when the subconscious shows up. And I'll notice that like I'll kind of cherry pick, because I'm a writer. I'll cherry pick my thoughts because I want like, I have, that's what I learned to do, because that's what made the best writing, was cherry picking the thoughts. I got very, very good at like, this looks pretty or sounds beautiful or is good or fits the story or does all those things, and you write that down.
You were always a good writer. You even won a couple of awards in elementary school for it. You're very, very good at writing.
I've always been good at writing, but being good at writing is not very helpful when it comes to automatic writing, because when you automatic write, it needs to be ugly and it needs to be messy, and you can't hold anything back. The moment something is there is when it comes out.
That's why I'm so good at it. Mm-hmm. I'm a terrible writer.
It's very helpful.
I'm terrible with actually the tangible, practical hand, instrument and handwriting. Automatic writing worked so well for me. Oh yeah, it's very powerful. You learn so much about yourself through automatic writing. So much. And you can see the patterns. That's why I before I ever did automatic writing, when I was in my 20s, I literally would write. So these were techniques that I learned through, I can't remember where I learned it from. It was, it might have been, no, because this is before Mary came in, and this is before Julia Cameron. This was probably a drama class from all a theater school practice, to learn more about yourself, to pull out these parts of yourself to fit the character that you're cast as, is you write down your emotions about, there's like, you find topics in your life, my health topic, my romantic sexual topic, my family topic, financial topic, and then you write down all the patterns that you see, all the things that you do pros and cons. You write down all the pros of finances in your life and write down all the cons of finances in your life. And then you can see how you're blocking your pros. You can see how you block abundance by writing down the cons. You do the same thing for everything else. Your health, your romantic sexual connections, your DNA family connections, family friends, what you want to do with your life purpose, career, things like that. And so I was always very much into that practice. And so automatic writing was like, oh, this is actually just a stream of consciousness. Oh, this is fascinating. And you have to observe your ego nitpick it. Your ego will nitpick it. You have to observe that, definitely. Another thing that I want to bring up here that is really important is you have to listen to the words that you speak, what's been reflected back to me in the last, I would say, 3 to 5 days. When your father and I were coming towards the end of the marriage, as in the last years, because it was ending for a long time before it finally split, I was always so negative about it. I was making it worse.
Yeah.
All I would do is be negative.
I'm so glad that you brought this up, because
your words create your reality.
I think that for me, the most helpful thing in recognizing my own victim is exactly what you're talking about here. I noticed that for me, everything was bad when I said it was bad. And I noticed that for other people too. I noticed that everything went poorly when they said it was poor, or when their mind looked at something in a negative way, that thing was way worse than it actually was. And I noticed this, for example, in social situations was a really big takeaway for me, because I would really, really judge. Actually, one of the biggest manifestations of my victim was judging myself in social interaction. And so when I felt like a conversation went poorly, I would get super, super down on myself. And I'd be like, well, maybe I'm just not cut out to be social, you know? And so it was...
I remember when you told me that once too. And I said to you, oh, that's garbage. You're my kid. I said, we're great socially. And you were like, I don't think I got that from you. Yes, you did. Yeah, I said you were born the entertainer. You're an entertainer. Oh, I don't know about that. Look at you. You've already performed with a band professionally. What are you talking about? You're great. I said you're just at a socially awkward age. Well, were you ever socially awkward? No, but we're talking about me. I don't have that in my personality. Was I insecure at your age? Of course I was. I puffed up a lot of ego as a front. Oh, I know exactly what my life purpose is. Oh, I know all about who I was. A very know-it-all person then. I knew it all.
Yeah.
That's victim.
That's the other end of the same victim spectrum.
It is.
And what I noticed is that because I would go into, well, I noticed this on every level. I noticed that I would go into conversations with an inflated sense of ego or an inflated sense of importance. So I noticed that right off the bat, I made the stakes very high for myself. Yeah. I was like, I expected myself to impress others. I expected myself to come across in a certain way to others. I expected myself to not be ugly or fail in front of others. And I expected to come across so positively that I was seen in a way that I wanted to be seen, right? The
levels of insecurity when we're very young is hilarious.
And so all of this, I had to unravel all this stuff, because what it really manifested as I like couldn't have a fucking conversation with anyone. Because I just was like so...
Except your mommy.
Yeah, but the difference is, of course... I could have a conversation with you or with Mars or with Kyan, because I had already expressed all of myself to you guys. There was nothing to hide.
That was so funny. And I would tell you that too, and you would say, I just can't talk with you. You talk with us all the time. Just pretend that it's us you're talking to. It did not work for you.
No, that did not work, because I wasn't... It's not like I was projecting anything onto other people. No. I saw other people as they were. I saw other people as beautiful and great and amazing, and I respected them and I loved them. Everything that I couldn't give myself, I saw in them. That was my victim. People are amazing, and oh my God, I love this person so much. And actually, what's funny is one of the keys to actually being able to have like a real like interaction and get out of that social awkward stage is actually to go deeper for me into how much I love others. Because for a lot of it, what it was I would like see others in a certain way, and that would cause me to then just hyper focus on myself so that I could match them, so that I could like be like, oh, I'm worthy of being around this person. And a lot of what it actually came down to was like, when I noticed that pattern again and again and again, and I noticed the issue. I noticed that it was an issue, that I was having this barrier between myself and others. And there's a lot of people that get stuck in that stage, and they say, oh, well, this just is the way that I am. Don't get stuck there, because that's an illusion. That's not real. Personality is malleable. It changes constantly. It's not actually who you really are.
Well, you can also change it if you want to.
But that's what I'm saying is personality. We think of, when we're stuck in personality, we think of personality as being a rote character factor that is made up of all of our experiences, which is true. That is what personality is. And it's just not stuck in the way that we think it is. It's always changing. And so you can go through and recognize and see everything that exists about your personality and choose to do something different. And the moment you change that in your mind is the moment when that change starts to happen. Now, it may not be instantaneous, and you're still going to have to deal with the feelings, but it's dealing with the feelings is actually what like makes that change cemented. It's what makes it concrete. And so what I realized is I was like, there's a problem here. I can't interact with other people. And after enough time being with different people, I started to notice, I was like, oh yeah, the problem is very clearly like, it's something within me. And then I went deeper and I was like, I just got very fed up because I was like, I can't really live this way forever. Like, I really want to be able to be around other people because I love other people. And I really want to like have there's something that I want. I actually didn't even know what it was that I wanted. I think I thought that I wanted to, I had like a surface level vision of what I wanted. I thought that I thought I wanted an aesthetic to like be seen in a certain way and see others in a certain way. I had like a movie. There was a movie that was in my mind of like how conversation or social interaction or life was supposed to go. And it was all aesthetically based. It was very two-dimensional. But that wasn't actually what I really wanted. That was just the surface level of what I really wanted. And so then I was like, I recognized that. I saw that for what it was through tons of different modalities and experiences, my own reflection, therapy, talking with other people, seeing other people online talking about this stuff and diving into that, everything combined together. And it caused me to recognize more of these things. And then I saw that what I really wanted was I wanted connection and I wanted depth. And I recognized that because I started to take these small little baby steps to just try different things and see if they worked differently, and to be conscious of my thoughts and my patterns. And all of these little steps, they all led up to where I am now, which is not existing within that same victim state. It is, I feel free of that victim state. And now I help others every day with that same thing. All of my friends, everyone that I encounter has some level of the same experience that I used to go through every day. And now I get to share my perspective with them to help them because this is actually what I realized. I thought that this was my personal issue. It's actually a worldwide issue. And that also helped break a lot of the victim mentality down, because it showed me that we are actually all going through really the same things. And we just, it's the illusion of individuality. And the illusion of individuality is part of what makes us stuck in the victim state.
Thank you so much to everyone who listened to this week's episode of the podcast. Feel free to check us out on Instagram at One Long Conversation to get some updates on our future episodes, our future content. You can also follow us on Patreon and become a member. We have a lot of interesting and awesome perks and cool ways to connect with us and our community that we're forming there. So go over to Patreon at One Long Conversation, and you'll find us there. We also have these episodes going out on YouTube now. So if you go to YouTube, yet again, at One Long Conversation, you will find video versions of these episodes. So yeah, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.